to the class. So we are streaming this into our Worthy group. So hello, everybody in the Worthy group and in Facebook land, wherever you're watching this, and on YouTube and the globe. So welcome. Today is Meet the Presenters, Pat McGrath and Jacqueline Kane. We want to talk about our event next week, which is next Wednesday, December 1st from 6:30 to 8. Getting Unstuck Inside and Out. It will be at the Bridge Healing Arts Center in Farmington, Connecticut. And yeah, if you would like to, if you're not in Connecticut and you would like to join us on Zoom, I'll get that together and we will do that. So, because everything is about Zoom these days. So I thought first, since there may still be people who don't know Pat and I, that we would, I'm just going to mute some of you. So give me 1 second here. I learned something new about Zoom, that you can pin people. There we go. Love technology. There was a time I was not good at technology, and now I'm teaching people technology. Anything can happen.
Keep people alive.
All right. So first I thought, Pat, that we would just kind of introduce ourselves.
Okay.
So would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. So my name is Pat McGrath, and I've been practicing feng shui for 20 years. But as I'm telling everybody now, I never really got into my groove until I combined it with spiritual counseling. And that's when I found out that the most powerful recommendations that I can make are very personal, very customized, and have to do with the lives of the people that I'm working with. And it could be something really big or something very subtle. And the reason I got into this was because of working with my husband for 10 years. And we had all of our equipment and all of our supplies and all of our art tables in the living room. And after 10 years, I was ready to separate and find my own path. And what I realized was I didn't know how to do that. I didn't know how to separate work from home. And with everything in our living room, I couldn't get away from work. It was work 24/7, which I think a lot of people are dealing with now because of the COVID, and they've had to work home before they were ready to prepare space at home. They were in the middle of it. And I'm sure that's giving a lot of people a lot of anxiety, because it certainly gave me anxiety. I couldn't really rest, and I felt really stuck. And then I read about a feng shui person, and I hired her, and she came and she helped me move stuff around, or she raised my awareness to what was actually happening in my space. And I got very emotional with some of the changes, and I realized how powerful this stuff was and how it got me going again, just by her telling me and teaching me what was happening in my environment and how it was reinforcing my feelings of being stuck. So it's kind of hard to talk about generalities, because everyone's space is different and every person is different, and what their goals are, what makes them, get excited, what makes them feel comforted, what makes them feel supported. It's all very different and specific to them. And like I like to say, you can have a house. The history of a house could be that it's owned by 5 different people. That house could be set up 5 different ways, because it's so personal. So I know a lot of people think they know about feng shui because there's so many books out there, and they can pick up a book and they can figure out generalities, but really that's not how it works. And what I get excited about is when all the training that I have and all the modalities that I understand, everything that they're telling me in the space gets filtered through all of that. And then I can come around and give them a recommendation, and they go, oh my God, I never saw this before. And it's something already there. It could be something that's already there. And it's just the intentional placement of it, or maybe it's got to leave, or maybe it's got to be relocated or given to someone else. You know, it's the possibilities are limitless, but it's pretty exciting stuff.
It is very exciting. Transformation is very exciting, right?
Yeah.
And that's why I love combining what we both do. So I started my career path taking x-rays. So I know a lot about the body. I've been in healthcare for a long time. I used to actually work in clinics. So I learned to take blood and do the blood work and all that kind of stuff. So I really dive deep into the body and the physical body. And then I became a massage therapist and learned Bowen therapy, which is a neuromuscular repatterning of the body. And that wasn't enough because I wanted to get to the root cause of physical pain. And I didn't realize that getting to the root cause of the physical pain, you had to look at the subconscious mind and the energy that we've been carrying. And what I've learned over time is that we're all carrying, just like you talk about, Pat, that there's just like there's energy in physical things, there's energy in our physical body, and you have to address the energy to heal the physical body. So true healing wasn't working until we had started addressing the ancestral energy, the inner child, all these different parts of ourselves that are so strong and really running. It's driving our bus, right? I like to say, who's driving your bus today? Sometimes it's the procrastinator. Sometimes it's the saboteur. Sometimes it's the wounded, defiant inner child, I call her. Which one is it? And most people are living in our defenses. So we have a defense team, but we also have a success team, which many people don't even like enter into. So that's your future self, the part of you that has everything you desire. So when we line up and we heal all these wounded parts of ourselves, then we can actually be ourselves. We can step into our own energy of who we are and what we came here to be. And so I'd like to move into why the first time Pat and I met. So I was talking to somebody who said, you really need to do some feng shui in your office. And I said, oh, I haven't done feng shui in a long time. You're right. And by this point, I had done a lot of work. So I was like manifesting pretty fast. So when somebody said that, immediately in the building where my office is at, we're all at a round table. And lo and behold, this woman, Pat McGrath, says, I am a feng shui expert, but I don't tell anybody. Little did she know that she was the missing piece for me, and I was the missing piece for her. And when we combined everything, magic happens. So, and little did she know that I would be telling everybody that Pat McGrath is an expert at feng shui, and let's create a program together.
Well, I think that speaks to the idea that when you're ready, that's when it happens. And I was ready because you understood energy. And that was my biggest frustration, was trying to explain to people the energy of their space, getting the vocabulary that translates what I know from another culture into our culture. So that has taken time, but it works great with what you do, because people that come to me after they've worked with you, they've already stirred up a lot of stuff inside and don't realize that maybe when they go home, that the stuff at home is reinforcing the old way of thinking, and they're busy working on trying to change their new way of thinking. And then they go back and they don't realize how they're just kind of, that environment is reinforcing what they're trying to grow out of. So that's why it's powerful.
Yeah, and the other thing that's coming through is the energy and the emotions that are stuck in our furniture. Right?
Absolutely.
And it's like, so for those of you who don't know, when Pat first came to my house and she was telling me some stuff of what to move, and I love her way of feng shui, because it's not like I have to take down a wall, or I didn't even paint anything. So it was just very easy things to do in the home that had very powerful results soon after I moved them. But I'll tell this story that, after she came through my house, she was like, "What's up with those chairs in your office?" And I said, "Well, those chairs come from my son's girlfriend." "Yeah, what was that like? What's going on there?" Well, there was just a lot of heavy energy around this girlfriend. And even as I talk about her, there was, these people in your life that have been through so much, right? That your heart goes out to them. And that's what it was for this young girl who ended up living with us for a short amount of time. And I never thought I would ever be saying that my son's girlfriend was living with us. But, when there's somebody in need, you do that. You just say, of course. So we inherited a couple of her chairs, and I didn't realize the impact those chairs were having on me and my business all day long. It wasn't until I started moving those chairs outside, because there was a progression. COVID hit, and of course, nobody was coming by to pick up furniture. So they moved to the back porch where I could see them from the kitchen every day. Then finally away on a truck that I could wave goodbye to. But when I moved them even to the back porch and then on the truck, I could feel like a letting go, which I had never realized before. And that happens every day to people, right? That we're just not even in tune to the energy of the furniture in our house, right?
It's really amazing. And sometimes you don't have to let them go. You can paint them, if it's a possibility of painting over them or changing the energy of it somehow so that it's yours, because basically the premise behind feng shui is that every life is sacred. And so our space, which is a continuation and an extension of who we are, is also sacred. Now, that's understandable in a lot of cultures, but our culture doesn't really look at it that way. It may be more of a designer thing, but we come from a perspective of mind, body, spirit 24/7. And this is a sacred part of you that is in your world, and it's affecting you. You're affecting it, but it's affecting you. And none of us are taught this. This is the big surprise, is that none of us are taught this. And the whole goal of the work that you and I are both doing is getting people back to themselves, really, to who they are. And I think we all spend many years in our life exploring other things, but ultimately the thing that feels the best is when we're connected to ourselves, our own value, who we are, what our higher intentions are, and what our belief systems are. But that includes where you actually walk the earth. And that's the big mystery to a lot of people, which seems like it wouldn't be, but it is.
And you're talking about getting present, right? Stop the rushing around. And Christy talks about slowing down, right? Stopping the overflow, the overwhelm, and slowing down. And I think COVID has done that for a few people, that we've had no choice but to slow down and see, okay, what's in our house, what's in our home that doesn't resonate anymore. But the slowing down for me is tuning in and being much more present to the energy, that, because it, like you said, it's very, very subtle. It's subtle how we react to our areas, the environment, and it's subtle for me to know when I'm triggered and when I'm frustrated, instead of pushing past that, especially with the holidays coming, right? We're all women here, and I know all of us do and give, and because we love to do that, but we push past our own boundaries.
It also happens when we go through life changes. And a lot of women, as we're raising children, give a lot of ourselves over to the kids and get so used to that, we don't realize that we don't know who we are anymore. And when they grow up and move on, and we still have a relationship with them, but that big part of us that was giving them the attention, we are now giving ourselves, and a lot of women are lost. And so, of course, that's another time to look around. And I remember being in a house where the woman was very, very stressed out and filled with anxiety. And she had 3 sons, and the pictures on the wall were all about when her kids were 4 and 3 years old, when in reality, they were in middle school and havoc was breaking out all over, and she was feeling like a terrible mother. But she felt like a good mother when they were little, but time doesn't stop for anyone. And here she was going through a transition of having 3 sons that were becoming men, and she was feeling pretty much out of control. So, and that happens all through our lives in one way or another.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we're constantly shifting. So we've done some work together, and we worked with some amazing people and women, mostly women. I'd love to talk about the results that they've had, and even that you and I have had. So I love that since doing our work together, for me, my business has evolved and grown. Clients show up easier and effortlessly. I don't have to do a lot of pulling of them in. My health has been getting better. My relationships are better. And I'm stronger in my ability to stand in my power and set better boundaries. So what have you noticed?
I've noticed that, you know, so many of us from my generation are socialized to just not make any waves, and to be the good girl, and to be create the peace between what's going on. No more.
Uh-oh.
If I have something to say, I'm saying it. And it feels so much better, because if you're not saying it, you're keeping that all inside, which turns into resentment. And then things get a lot tougher. So that has been fantastic. Certainly getting past the idea that we have to carry the load from our ancestors. I had no idea that you could release that, still honoring them, respecting them, and loving them. You could release the burden that wasn't yours. That was huge for me. And then the other idea of recognizing what my emotions are in the moment, because I grew up at a time where our parents were overwhelmed and they didn't need to be dealing with everybody's feelings. So it was like, okay, enough crying, enough this, enough that, suck it up, deal with it, and let's move on. So that gets to be a pattern to the point where you don't even know what your feelings are anymore. That was huge for me. And, I feel like I'm the role model for so many people younger than me, because here I am at 74 learning all this stuff. So I wish I could help other people that I know of and am related to do the same thing. But you can only do that when they're ready to hear it.
Yeah, very true. And even a bunch of our clients, they've been able to get out of pain. I know some of them, money has shown up very fast after some of our shifting around of energy. Mm-hmm. It's fun to watch. Okay, so we'd like to open this up. I know Miss Joyce and Miss Christy are here. If you would like to chime in and say anything. I know there's probably stuff you want to share.
Me?
Yeah.
Well, first of all, I've got a couple of years of age on Pat, and so I agree with you 100%. Things were a lot different when we were growing up kids. And yeah, and Jackie, the work that we've been doing has just been, I'm not the same person I was 5 years ago. And I probably have more energy now, inner energy, maybe not the energy to run down the road and back again, but it's energy that I never knew about before. I was not even aware of, and I can't imagine what I would be like if I have not opened up and learned about it by doing this work that you and Pat do. And so the results are just unbelievable. As we were talking before you went online about the door I just painted yellow, and how it's just changed my outlook and how people immediately notice the difference, and it just lit me up, you know. I mean, it's fun. I mean, it's the other thing I found is well, there's a lot of activities going on around me and whatnot. I I realized there are some things at my age that I cannot do anymore. And instead of feeling negative about that, it's the present time, and I live in the present. This is what I can do, and I'm so thankful for everything that I can do. But also I've let go, especially in the last couple of months, of saying I have to do this and I have to do that, instead of and having expectations that everybody for other people to do stuff, and kind of sit back and pass the wand on to the next generation. And some amazing things have happened in the last couple of months. And most of this kind of relates with what's going on in our church. And the flow is smooth, and people are pulling together and stepping up, and it's just, the environment is just so, it's like electric. I mean, there's like a current going on, you know, and things are just happening without a lot of to do about it. Suggest something that's going to happen, and the next thing you know, it's taken care of. And that isn't that been a normal thing in my life.
Yeah. And I want to reference back to that in 1 second, Joyce. I know Christy has to go. So Christy, if you want to just say
Yeah,
something.
I love what everyone's saying. I think that addressing energy is so important more than ever now. And what I love about the energy between Pat and Jackie is that we all need support teams, and to have their wisdom and insights on my support team has been amazing, because that alone, besides moving furniture or painting my door, and that's important too, but also just receiving this wisdom, because both of you I know have been on such journeys to learn this, to live it, to experience it, and so many people can benefit from that. And so I'm looking forward to next Wednesday, and I know others who may be listening to this should attend. And if you have a virtual opportunity, I think that's going to bring more people in, because this has been a wonderful, opening up to this feng shui and energy and clearing and ancestral connections that you both offer has really catapulted to my life, my business, and like Joy said, just even has a ripple effect. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Christy.
Thank you. Yeah, it's amazing. And so back to you, Joyce. And I know all the work that you have done on yourself over the last few years to help you get to the place where you are with your church. because you're a better receiver now. And there's a much more teamwork,
Yeah.
which wasn't there before.
Yeah, it's just been amazing, and um, it's still a small group of people, but we are accomplishing a great deal. And what I see is a trust between us, a give and take of trust. Make a comment. Well, for instance, for those who don't know, we don't have a minister. We haven't had a minister since May. And so 3 other people and myself have been in charge of making sure we have a service at church, whatever it may be. And so what are we going to do? I don't know. Well, some of them are much much better with the electronics and can go online and do things that I cannot do. And so it's easy for them, whereas there's other things that I can do that they rather not do. So the comment came up on Sunday, for instance, that I said, okay, what do you want me to do for such and such? I asked what they wanted me to do, because I know what they can do. And they said, if you go ahead and continue to do all the little stuff, all the little things that take time to do, and we'll take care of the main sermon. Well, you can't have one without the other. So there's nobody important or anything. It's a joint effort all the way around. So we're doing things and knowing how things fit in. And then on Sunday morning, it's like, is everybody okay? Yeah. And, and if somebody hasn't shown up for whatever reason to do their part, somebody else is right there to say, well, okay, I'll just do it.
So
That is-
Jack, I'm
that
sorry.
is- yeah, it's amazing.
Well, I want Jackie to speak to that and explain why when we do the stuff for us, how it affects other people and shifts the environment. Because what you're saying is, as you worked on yourself, it
Yeah.
shifted the community that you were working with.
Yeah.
How does
I
that
think-
work, Jackie?
Well, you started being seen, right? And you started speaking up. So before, there's a time when we're living our lives and we're all children, and we may have been through trauma, little trauma or big trauma, right? Whatever that is. But that little child, your inner child, was scared by something. Something caused you to shut down, turn down your energy, right? Whether a teacher embarrassed you in school, or a parent said something and embarrassed you in front of everybody, or they told you to be quiet and not be too loud, right? Pat, you talked about our parents were all overwhelmed. They lived through war, they lived through depression, they lived through serious things, and they were overwhelmed. And as they lived through all of those things, they shut down their energy because they were in it. So they weren't going to talk about it. And back then, nobody talked about it, right? So what happens when you feel all that fear and it can't go anywhere? You're not letting it out. In the wild, animals will be shocked or scared of something, and then they'll shake it out. And it's similar. A 2-year-old is going to have a tantrum because she feels the energy. She wants to move it. But what do we do to that 2-year-old who's having a tantrum? We tell her to stop it and sit down. What do we do? What do we tell all these boys in school? Sit in a chair for 8 hours. Don't be yourself. Sit down, to conform. We have been taught as a society to conform, to not be yourself. So when you're told over and over again to conform, what does that do to who you are? What does that do to the part of you that has something to say? That nobody's asking, Pat, how are you today? What do you need? I never got that when I was growing up. I was just watching a movie today where this little girl, she said her prayers with her mom before she went to bed, and then she got in bed and they both gave her a kiss goodnight. And I was like, wow, what would that have been like? My first thought was, I didn't do that with my kids. I didn't say prayers with my kids. And then I thought, no, you didn't, because nobody did it with me, right? So we just parent what we've been taught, but we've really been taught to fit in to society, to fit in to your family. And when we get to be 40, 50, 60 years old, all that suppression becomes physical pain, becomes arthritis, becomes rage and anger, people losing it. Or it could become depression. It could be, pulling the covers over, staying in bed a little longer, not wanting to do anything. These are all the things that if we don't address them at an early age, we are learning how to suppress. And then we get to a point where we're just surviving.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't tell you how many people will say, oh yeah, I have some pain, but I'm good. You have physical pain and you're good? What do you mean you're good? Because you got used to it?
Yep.
And then people get to the point where, I'll do an inventory in one of the first sessions. Do you have any physical pain? No, I'm good. A few sessions later, they'll be like, yeah, I've got low back pain. I always have shoulder problems. You didn't put it on the paper. Because we're so used to it.
Yeah.
Right? It's just how we are. It's just who I am. God, stop that. Nobody is who they are today because we're carrying all of this other baggage. What would a society be if we asked our kids, how are you doing today? What do you need? Instead of telling them what to do and how to do it. And yes, I'm not saying, all right, let's just have a kid and tell them, have at it. But can I pull back my pushing of my agenda for that child? Can I say, let's work together? And can we work as a team to take care of the house, feed ourselves, take care of the yard, do everything, and then tune into your energy? Because most of the time we become numb. I became numb to my feelings.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even know what gave me joy. How sad is that?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure there's many women out there who are like, I don't know what I like to do.
I have a funny story about somebody saying that we're talking to this very thing about space, where she was young and a young friend said, I'm gonna go to Europe for a few weeks. Would you please take my artwork and hang on to it till I come back? Well, the woman says yes, because she's shut down. She puts it up and she hates the artwork herself. The other woman doesn't come back for 2 years. And so the first woman doesn't use the room that she's hung the art in her own house because she can't stand the artwork. Instead of saying, well, this is an over, taking advantage of me by me promising this, for seeing that clearly, and making some other arrangement. She just said yes because she felt like she couldn't say no to this person, her friend. Right. But the friend was taking advantage of her, and so here she doesn't use the whole living room for 2 years because she can't stand the artwork in her own house. So I mean, it can get to extremes.
And hey, I've done stuff, right? I've said yes. And later on I was like, Why am I doing this? Or my husband will say like, why'd you say yes? What are you doing?
We all do it.
We all do it. Yeah, and it's just honoring all these parts of ourselves, right? And taking baby steps. I had a client today who came in and she was just ecstatic with how much energy she had and talking about, getting in the kitchen and cooking, and where months ago, because she did have cancer, she did go through treatments. She didn't have the energy to do that. She didn't have the creativity to like think of things. And she had to move through that fear. Like when the doctor gave her that cancer diagnosis, she had to live with that fear first. She had to heal that first. Then she had to learn to speak up. So in her healing process, she's been speaking up a lot to her husband and saying, my food is really important to me. So she's very specific on what she eats. And, that kind of food, eating healthy, the way that you do after you've had cancer and after you've gone through a major health crisis, can be difficult in this country. So she had to set down the line. I said, you had to speak up very powerfully to your husband. And there's two ways of speaking up, right? So you talk about, why was Joyce being heard now and why did she not get heard before? So usually before, we're taught to say, I need this, but in kind of a manipulative way, right? We're not really standing in our power. It's kind of like that meek little person. Hey, can you do this for me? Hey, by the way, I need help, but you're not really speaking up. When you heal all those parts of yourselves and the fear of speaking up, you can very consciously say, hey, I need help with this. And there's no guilt. There's no, oh, I shouldn't. It's no, I'm worthy enough to speak up to somebody and say, hey, I need help. And the beautiful thing is that when we do it all ourselves, we don't allow them to have the gift to help us. But by you asking for help, now you let them give the gift of giving and helping and serving. So it's a win-win for everybody, and it just fuels everybody. It gets so exciting, right? Because now you're a team,
Yep.
right? And you're all jazzed up. Now look what we can do.
Well, I think what you're saying is it happens to everyone. As we grow, as we go on, transition from children to high school to afterwards, to being a single person to a married person to having children, somewhere along the line, we're getting stuck in something, either our thoughts, our emotions, our whatever. And we don't even realize it because it happens so subtly. And it can happen abruptly with something like an accident or surgery or something, or an event that just turns your world upside down. But it can also happen so subtly, you don't know you're stuck.
Yeah.
And what this work is about is helping you see that, and then helping you have ways to shift that. It's always up to you. It's nothing we're doing. It's like we're just raising awareness and giving you tools, and then you can choose whether to use those tools or not. But the fun thing for us is when people do that, and then they're beaming because people are
Magic
commenting on their
happens.
front door. That's pretty exciting.
Yeah, and it's not to say you do the work for a few weeks or 3 months, whatever, how long we're working together. It's not to say that we're not going to bump up against that next level,
Sure.
right? Or we're not going to get stuck again. But now you're not going to sit there that long.
Yeah.
You're not going to be as tired as long. You can shift it. I can shift it in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
That is so true, Jackie, because you've given us the tools, you and Pat have given us the tools to learn and to use those. And maybe I don't do it as often as I should, some of the tapping, but I know that I can just go and do it anytime and it's going to work. And a good example of that was night before last, I was, for whatever reason, not sleeping. And when I'm not sleeping, then the mind, the wheel starts going in the mind, it's turning. And I got up, had some tea and crackers or something, I don't know what, and read a book and went back to bed an hour later. And I still felt a little fidgety, and I said, okay, what's the matter with me? Just do some tapping on this, you know? And I just did some tapping and clearing. And I don't even know when I fell asleep. But the next thing I knew, I was waking up at the alarm going off at 6 o'clock in the morning. So I mean, it's right there, you know what I mean? But yeah, I fooled around for an hour and a half in bed, not sleeping. And getting myself kind of more restless instead of just doing it. Because the mind was just someplace else. I was in my head and not here. That's exactly what it was. And it's
Our
just
mind-
that easy. When you got the tools, know how to use it, it's just that easy. And then
Absolutely.
you work on it from there.
All right. Well, thank you, Joyce and Christy, for being here, and everybody who's watching the replay. And again, if you'd like to get unstuck, you can join us next Wednesday, December 1st from 6:30 to 8 at the Bridge Healing Arts Center in Farmington, Connecticut. And we will set up a Zoom for virtual. So have a great day, everybody. And thank you for watching.
Have a great Thanksgiving, both of you. And,
You too.
watch the diet there, but eat as much as you want and enjoy it.
Thank you for all your comments. You're so kind, Joyce.
All right.
Happy
So,
Thanksgiving.
We will talk in person to you soon, like
Hopefully.
first.
Hopefully.
All
Okay.
right, have a good one.
Bye-bye.
Yep,
Bye.
bye-bye.